Welcome again, fellow blue suits. Was your commute here all good? I suppose so, but is it really necessary we have to come underground again next time? Of course. Do you want us to get discovered? Do you not understand the complications of that? Well, yes, I guess so then. How about everyone else? Yes, this was all good. No issues for me. Fantastic. Alright, let's proceed with the meeting. So, as we discussed last time, step 1 of the plan has already come to fruition. All of the pieces are in place for phase 2. I suggest we move now. Everything is set up, and I think it will go according to plan. I agree. I believe this is a perfect time to start the phase. I agree. I believe this is a fantastic time to start the next step. Yes, me too. And me as well. Fantastic.
So in this video, we are going to be continuing to take a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. We are now on episode 65 of the series, and in the last episode we saw a huge war take place inside of Central Asia, as well as involving Europe and Africa. If you haven't seen that episode, I do highly recommend you go ahead and watch it, because it is very important, and sorry if you haven't, because this is a giant spoiler, but basically, the anarchist countries were defeated in a huge coalition after they opposed Egypt in a terrorist attack, and yeah, this has led to a lot of new updates in Central Asia. Also, there is just one thing I did forget to mention in the peace treaty, but it is here now. After the war, Sudan is now a Chad puppet state. I did forget to mention that in the peace treaty, but here it is now. But yeah, if you guys do end up enjoying this episode, please do be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe. We are getting very close to 2.5k, and that is our goal by the end of February. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to help us get there, and without further ado, let's begin. Oh, also, just a few things I do want to mention before I start. I am recording this with a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds a bit nasally. I have been ill recently, so yeah. And another thing, I added a terrain layer. I'm gonna see what you guys think of this. I'm gonna be checking the comments. If you guys like it, please be sure to tell me. If you guys don't, then I will remove it. I think it just adds a little bit of detail to the map. I can toggle it on and off whenever. I just personally think it makes the map look a bit nicer, but if you guys do want me to remove this, please do let me know in the comments. I am absolutely open to not keeping this. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual map events now. So first things first, we are going to be moving over to the Red Manchurian country. Now, this country is in a very bad situation. During World War III, they got hit hard, they were nuked and they lost, and after the war, they were heavily reduced. They lost 3 major cities, and now they only have 2 besides their capital, and they are in a very bad state. Their economical policy, placed in part by the dictator, did not end up working, and this has increasingly turned people against him, and eventually it kind of just culminates to a point where the country just straight up full on collapses. Like, the government just straight up just gets destroyed, it can't function anymore, regions just start breaking away, and the country essentially just collapses. So, yeah, this is kind of just unclaimed land now. We do have the red team in some aspect being able to hold out in their capital area, but apart from that, this whole area just becomes a warring state, and at this point the CN is going to be getting involved, and the solution that they come up with is that the countries surrounding them will be moving in and occupying this land in order to restabilize and annex it. So first things first, we have the Baikalians moving their forces in. Now this is not, don't get me wrong here, this is not an invasion. These guys are not aggressively expanding into this land. This was a voted thing that the Council of Nations in its entirety did agree to. Baikal is of course willing to do this. And same thing with the green team, these guys just move in to occupy this region. We have the green team capturing the capital, where the dictator will be taken and he will be held under international tribunal for his crimes of, I guess, being a dictator, I suppose. And all of this northern land is going to go ahead and fall over to Baikal and Manchuria. And in the south, we actually see something a little bit different happen. We actually have a very big pro-Beijing movement take place in this region, and these guys actually invade into the rest of this land. So, I guess Beijing's going to benefit here. So yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at the division of this land. So this is what we are going to go ahead and see for this division here. So we have the CN countries going ahead and being granted the land that they moved in to occupy. Baikal is going to be getting all of it. This is the land that was stated that they would be claiming. However, the Manchurians obviously won't be gaining all of it, because this land down here that would have gone over to them now is part of Beijing. So we have them claiming these 3 chunks of land. This also includes the capital, and this area down here is actually going to go ahead and join up with Beijing. And wow, I really like those borders. Okay, irrelevant though. But yeah, so that is what we are going to go ahead and see for the division of this country, like so. But next up, we need to move over to a different sector of the world, because, yeah, Simon Spuds is going to be at it again. Now, well, it was a few episodes ago, not the last episode, of course, but I did mention of how now in power in the South African country, there is a very strong dictator who gained his power from monopoly over potato farming, and this guy has some plans. He is being funded by a mystery foreign power to do this, and he is going to be launching an invasion into the Cape Country. Now, of course, these guys need justification to going to war because while this guy is, a strong dictator, this country isn't exactly weak. It was the core of the Galician South African colony, and it's certainly strong. So what we actually have happening is we have South Africa actually staging an incident on the border. Essentially, there is a railroad network that goes in between these countries right over here, and this kind of moves down from these small coastal cities over to the capital. And we have a South African train moving up, and it's actually going to be exploded right over here in territory of the Cape Country. And the South Africans are going to be saying that these guys did this on purpose. This was something they ordered to harm the South Africans, and this is a reason to declare war on them. Now, of course, the Cape Country is going to immediately go ahead and deny, saying, yo, we did not do that, that was not us, we promise. But the people of the South African country believe their government, so they are all for invading in, and we quickly have the South African country move in, and they are able to immediately encircle the capital city of this country. In the north, we also have them following along this river, and they begin to follow it along. This is a very good strategic advantage for them. And this also further severs connection between the north and the south pocket, of which is now fully cut, as we have the South Africans meet up with this major city over here, and they fully begin to move into this territory. At this point, this area over here is going to go ahead and get squeezed in, and this major city is going to go ahead and fall, leaving to this area's surrender. And the area in the north is going to go ahead and capitulate over to South Africa. And finally, in the south, we have the Cape Country being pushed in on all sides on the capital, to which it is eventually captured, and these guys are going to go ahead and fully surrender. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look now at this peace treaty. So this is what we are going to go ahead and see for this peace treaty. And yeah, as you could probably tell, this is indeed a pretty harsh one. They lose all of their most populated areas and their best economical area, and they are pushed up north, as we see South Africa annexing all of these provinces over here. And yeah, this is a huge win for them, and this greatly helps them out in terms of their economy and military. And yeah, with this actually happening right after the war, in fact, only 2 months after, we have a very suspicious circumstance meeting take place between Simon and the leader of Nigeria. And this is a little concerning, especially considering these two countries seem to be sort of going down the same path, and maybe there is a specific reason for that. Next up, we need to move over to North America, because we're actually going to be seeing a new alliance form up over here. And this alliance is going to be between the Quebec countries. As we see the formation of the Star Alliance, which is the shape I'm going to be giving it, and the countries that go ahead and join are going to be Quebec, as well as Newfoundland. Now, you may have noticed that this orange country is not in the alliance, and also this shape overlaps, and yeah, if you hadn't already guessed, that's going to be because these two countries are uniting. Actually makes a lot of sense for these guys too, if you think about it. These guys were the Irish colony, like, this was the only part of the Irish colony. They were split in two when it was released, however, these guys want to unite. They believe it would help them out a lot, and of course, they aren't in the best of areas. So yeah, to help out their economy and stability and all of that, and with the fact that they are now in an alliance with each other, they go ahead and decide to unite up. So yeah, that is what we are going to be seeing over here in Quebec. Now, one thing I do want to also mention, this is like a dual capital union, like, it's kind of like the UK, it's made up of two sovereign nations, but they are both the part of the same country, so like, the Orange country still rules over this bit, but they're all kind of united as one country, if that makes sense. Next up, we're actually going to be moving over to East Asia, because a bit of a unity event is going to go ahead and take place over here. And to look at that, we need to move over to the Shandong country. Now, the Shandong country was very recently released. They were released in the Peace Treaty of World War III, that was in 1994, and we're now in the year 2009, so only about 15 years ago. and they are relatively new, and they are struggling a little to set up their economy. Now, to hopefully help them out with this, they did go ahead and join up with China's alliance. However, this didn't really work out for them, so they are having a new alternative to that, and what they are going to be doing instead is they are actually going to be uniting with China proper. This as an event makes good sense, they're the same religion, they also have the same currency, which is kind of like the regional Chinese currency that Beijing and China have. But yeah, they go ahead and join to help them out, and we have this area begin to improve a lot economically, so it seems to be working out pretty well for them. But now we need to move back over to the Gujarat country because they are continuing to have a little bit of troubles with invading the purple team. Now, in the last episode, no, not the last episode, I need to stop saying that. In episode 63, I believe, I talked about how a militarist group came in control of the purple team, and this militarist group is starting to do some questionable things. They begin mass bombing runs over the Gujarat areas, and a lot of the civilian population of this country gets caught up in the crossfire. Even the kind of people that were here before are getting bombarded, so this is a very interesting thing we see. We do see them manage to move up into this area over here. However, down in this region, we have the Gujarats continue to move in onto this very small encircled region. Also, speaking of the Gujarats, this is a little bit of a nicer event than war. We actually have the Gujarat population continue to come back. I hadn't really done a good job of mentioning this, but a reason that they are able to come back like this and so quickly is because these people hadn't all been killed. A lot of them had actually fled over to Egypt during the war, and so what we see is either the Gujarat people either bringing their people back, forcing the Indians to convert, or deporting them to the blue Indian country and the purple Indian country, which is actually causing a really big refugee crisis. This is probably something I should actually talk about in a bit more depth, but yeah, a lot of the Indian peoples in the Gujarat country that aren't converting are being deported into the purple team, which is causing a huge refugee crisis, especially in this region. This is the area they are being deported into a lot, because it's kind of easier for them to move people here. Like, this is an active battle zone, whereas this is a little bit more tame, so they are basically just shoving the Indian people into this area, which is a massive humanitarian issue. The CN is really frowning on the Gujarats for doing this. However, they are continuing to do it, which is really bad. This area is one of the worst places to live now in the whole world. But anyway, moving back, we have the Gujarats kind of repopulating the areas they had before World War III. Before World War III, they had this region. The people lived here before. And now they are fully back, which is pretty good, and they also begin to move more into this Indian region. And in case any of you were wondering, no, they are not committing any genocides here, don't worry about that. They are merely just kind of moving their people in and doing the other stuff that I had said earlier. Next up, we will be moving back over to the European Commonwealth. I did focus on these guys a little bit a couple episodes ago, but they are now going to be expanding. They are going to be getting a few more countries to join in. Some of these countries had wanted to join for a while, but some of these countries had only wanted to join as of recent. So the first country we go ahead and see join is actually going to be Sweden. Sweden is a pretty strong economic power. Now, while I'm sure a lot of these countries are still salty about World War II, they don't have any issues with letting the modern Swedish country join this alliance. We also... Oh my god, that was... oh god. We also have Iceland go ahead and join in. That was probably one of the worst voice cracks I've ever had. And yeah, so that is what we're going to be seeing the EC expand into today. But now we need to move over to the Americas, because the NFB is going to be continuing with their shenanigans. A couple episodes ago, they got into that very big war with the Mayans and California, and they saw a victory in that war, a pretty major victory in fact, and they are going to be on the move again. However, in this time, it's going to be in a little bit of a different way. As we have the NAFB funding fascist rebels in the Cuban country. They do want to gain influence over this country, as it would kind of extend them out into the Caribbean regions. This area is very good for trade, and they do want either to have control of it or have an ally to have control of it. So we see fascist Cuban rebels break out in the capital city and the areas kind of over here. This is the near areas of the NAFB. And they begin to move down Cuba. Now, the original Cuban government is then going to go over to Galicia and the IDP, and they are going to be saying, yeah, we are absolutely cooked. We give you permission, we give you our full permission to go ahead and occupy Jamaica and this island right over here in order to save our people from the oppression of the NAFB so that they cannot expand and take over all of our land. Now, the Galicians know that doing this will probably raise a lot of tensions with the NAFB. However, they do understand the issue. Unlike some other fascist countries, like Sichuan, Norway, for instance, these guys are kind of just like chill fascists. They have fascist ideologies, but they aren't kind of like evil or anything. This is basically just like a far right wing dictatorship in these countries. But these guys are like aggressive fascist expansionist countries. So, in order to kind of help out the people on this area, we have Galicia accepting this deal, and they go ahead and move in and occupy these two islands. And we also have the government of the Cuban country go ahead and flee over to Galicia. Now, the Cubans are not very happy about this, and so is the NAFB, but the NAFB can't really say anything on the international stage because that would be extremely hypocritical. You are funding a foreign civil war, yet you're calling them out for wanting to save their people. Not a good look. So these guys are just going to take it quietly, although in silence they are going to be very mad, and eventually we have the whole rest of the Cuban island come under control of the fascists. And in this sort of peace treaty, we have these two islands going over to Galicia. The Cubans are going to go ahead and become fascist, and only a few months later, they will be joining up fully with the NAFB. So yeah, any doubt that these guys hadn't been funding them is completely gone with that happening. Good job, guys. And also, I think it's probably important that at this point, there is a pretty big breakdown of relations between the Arrow Alliance and the Circle Alliance. Very recently, in fact, these two had been on more so neutral terms. After the Mayan-Californian War, it had gone pretty downhill. Egypt did not like how much they expanded here and how much strength they gained from it. And Egypt kind of did call them out, like, can you, like, chill out? But with this happening, we have the Egyptians making some demands, kind of saying, can you be, like, less aggressive? And the NAFB is going to respond to this pretty harshly, and we actually have a very large cut of relations between the Circle and Arrow Alliance. And this is something that Ohio is pretty concerned about, because they now have not only a strong alliance, but also a strong enemy alliance. Well, not enemy, these guys aren't enemies. Let me rephrase. A strong, not friendly alliance on their border. They are definitely not at the stage where, like, blasting each other diplomatically. They hold neutral, slightly negative relations, but they are absolutely not at a point where they hate each other. I don't want you guys to think that, because, you know, obviously. And with this actually happening, the NEFB is going to be doing something else, you know, kind of responding to Egypt, kind of being like, you know, we can do whatever we want. This is their way of showing that. We have the NAFB finally enacting on something that they had actually been working on for a while now, and that is moving over to the Blue Team. And this country was an ally of the USP throughout the Cold War, however there are a few things to say about it. First of all, these guys in the modern day do not like the USP, and they are kind of... The people are kind of unhappy that they sided with the USP. They saw the USP as kind of their foreign overlords that had to invade them in order to make them support them. Now, while they did remove the dictator, the people are kind of blinded by that, and there are actually several new dictatorial figures in this country. So yeah, this country is slipping back towards its original roots, and it just so happens that one of those dictator candidates is actually fascist. And with a little bit of NAFB support and funding, we actually have a fascist overthrowing of the democratic government in the Peru country, and just like that, fascism has made its way to South America for the first time ever. This is slightly concerning for the countries around it, especially these guys. Now, after the war, these guys had actually had a pretty big break of relations with the remainder of, I guess, the USB democratic countries. These are the guys that kind of were the continuation of the USB. They still like what the USB was and it strode for. So yeah, immediately now even more bad relations. And before these guys can really do anything to combat it, because these guys are absolutely thinking of forming a coalition, we have the blue Peruvian country going ahead and joining up proper with the NEFB. So yeah, I don't really know what to call this alliance now. I guess I would just call it the American Fascist Bloc from now on. So, dropping NAFB, and now we're moving over to the AFB. So yeah, decent expansion for this alliance in this episode, and we'll definitely have to see what this down here leads to in the coming episodes. Next up, we need to move over to Central Asia, because, well, it's time for our daily Kazakhstan update. These guys are back to doing shenanigans, and yeah, they're going to be going to war. However, this time it's going to be a little bit different, because instead of a war over here, it's actually going to be a civil war. and it's going to be in the light blue country. And these guys are having troubles of, kind of annexing and kind of quieting this land down here down. This was very recently a part of the brown anarchist country, and before that it was that, purplish country. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of breakaways over here. So we have a kind of independence sort of movement over here. And these guys, they want their independence. They are very different in terms of how the people feel to the main government. These guys are also, of course, fascist, which, just being anarchist and before that a dictatorship, they aren't too big of a fan of that. So we have these guys going ahead and breaking away. And also, this is why these guys were so low stability. But luckily for them, we actually have them kind of being ready for this. They actually had found out about this before it even happened, because the plans for this rebellion were leaked. So we actually have the blue team being able to take advantage of a weak spot in the front lines that they had realised would be there to quickly spearhead in and capture this major city. And unfortunately for these guys, this kind of destroys their movement. They are quickly pushed back out of this area, and they are pushed into this corner, where eventually they are squeezed in on, and they are actually defeated. So, good job, you survived your civil war. These guys are still unstable, but with that kind of being like a wake-up call, like, yo, if you don't fix this, you're gonna die, they start to work on their stability, and their fascist government begins to think of other ways of maybe consolidating power and strength. Now, there is one thing I do really quickly want to talk about before we get to the final event of this video, something I probably should have mentioned a little bit before, and that is actually the nuclear bombs layer. Now, the reason I haven't talked about this in a while is for a couple of reasons. First things first, Indonesia, they are not producing any more nuclear bombs. These two guys aren't. They already stated that they wouldn't be even before World War III. And the Egyptians, they don't really see a need to produce anymore. They feel kind of safe as they are. And the Dutch probably have been, but, it's not that significant, so that's why I haven't been focusing on this layer. So I'm going to be doing one more update. I might do some more updates in the future if I ever deem it as necessary, but yeah, this is going to be the first nuclear update we actually have seen in a very long time. So first of all, and also, because they've had like 15 years to do this, they've had a long time, the Dutch go ahead and go from 5 nuclear bombs up to 28. So yeah, they gain quite a few. And in regards to Egypt, they really slowed down on the production after war. The people, they had kind of mixed reactions. While seeing the nukes as being really important to defend them, like, they realized, yo, having those nukes really saved our ass. They also didn't really like the effects that it had on them. So there's been kind of a growing anti-nuclear movement in Egypt, but still, it's very minor, so the Egyptians still have been mass-producing, and they are back up to somewhat pre-World War III standards. They're now at 95 nuclear bombs again. So yeah, that is going to be our very long-awaited nuclear updates. And also, I know I did say that we were going to get onto our final event in a sec, but I think I should probably update the power rankings again now. And I'm going to go a little bit more in-depth to them this time. This is going to be a more in-depth power rankings. This is something I haven't really done before, but we're also going to be going into regional power rankings as well. And I'm also going to be doing a little bit more of a better job at explaining the actual top 10. And then after that, we will be getting to our final event. So I'm going to go ahead and move these over here so we can have room for our new ranks. So at number 1 is going to be Egypt, of course. They have stayed at number 1, they really have no reason to lose this strength. They, in the modern day, have been furthering their industrialization process. A lot of lands that they gained through the Cold War and even World War III were under-industrialized, especially the Sudanese regions, based on the fact that a lot of countries that controlled this area before were very poor. When the Galicians colonized this land, they did put a little bit of effort in, especially to some of these coastal major cities, but they have been able to industrialize this further, and also the Arabian regions, especially the southern area. But yeah, so they have actually gone up quite a bit in strength. And at number 2 is, of course, going to be China. Now, something interesting here, I should probably mention, China is actually gaining strength faster than Egypt. Now, this isn't like anything to be worried about, like, oh my god, China's gonna take over Egypt and then kill them, oh my days. No, it's nothing like that. They just have, if you really think about it, they have a better area, better situation for them to be in. A big reason as to why they are kind of lower down than they probably should be is because if you think about after World War I, they had that big war with India that really tanked their progress. And, before World War I, they had an absolute monarchist leader, and that guy, it was kind of like Russia before the Russian Revolution, very kind of not willing to modernize, give the people rights, all of that sort of stuff, and that really hindered their progress. However, in the modern day, they are starting to do pretty good. They are now the largest exporter of goods in the world. So yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves. If I was to do like percentage stuff, which I'm gonna do for each individual country, they are probably about 90% as strong as Egypt, maybe 85%. But yeah, that gap is somewhat closing. And number three is Indonesia. Same thing with China, Egypt. Really no reason to go down the ranks. Very strong country who's had a very strong history that has been able to boost them into the modern day. So yeah, they are doing actually pretty well for themselves. Now, comparatively to China and Egypt, they are not developing as fast as them. However, they are also a very big exporter of product, which has allowed them to become a very strong economy. In terms of economical ranks, they are about tied with Egypt. And number four is going to be Ohio, and yeah, you may notice the top of these is going to stay the same, mostly because none of these really strong countries have been hit at all, so they are able to kind of just maintain their strength. Ohio has actually developed pretty comparatively to China. I had said before World War III, I believe, that they had been kind of modernizing and industrializing, very similar to China, in fact, and they are continuing that into the 21st century. Now, the next couple of ranks are actually going to be pretty surprising, and I wouldn't be shocked if you guys were a little bit surprised by this as well, because there is actually going to be quite a lot of changes for the bottom half of these ranks. First of all, at number 5 is now the Dutch. They have officially overtaken the Galicians. This is mainly due to the fact that they have been heavily... I know I've been saying this for like all of the countries. I sound like a robot just repeating myself. But these guys, really industrializing. They have, of course, the Rhineland, and this area really hadn't been taken advantage of in terms of its economical capabilities until now. But the Dutch are really starting to reel in that economy. Just think about this. All of the economically viable areas of IRL Germany, the Dutch, which is already good in IRL, and all of the northern industrialized regions of France. If you imagine that in real life, that would also be a very strong country, and because it's all united under one in this case, they are even stronger than that would be. So yeah, they are really able to do pretty well. At number 6 is going to be Tokyo, and very surprisingly, at number 7 is actually going to be Korea. Now, Korea is a pretty interesting country. They were kind of the right-hand man of Tokyo in the Cold War, and there is a good reason for that. These guys are actually a very strong power. I hadn't really given these guys credit for how strong they were before. The last power rankings I did, which was right after World War III, they were just beyond the power rankings. They were number 12. However, they have really been doing well at modernizing in the modern day. If you think about it in real life, countries like South Korea is even stronger than countries like the UK and France in real life. So yeah, just imagine that, but then with this behemoth, who also has this guy over here, and then Jeju Island, which I know South Korea does in real life. But yeah, very, very big country over here as well. At number 8 is going to be Galicia. At number 9, I am going to give it to Pyrenesia. And at number 10, this is actually a tricky one. I'm looking at countries for this one, such as South Africa, the Congo, maybe even Louisiana to some extent, although I'm not too sure about that. England as well, Beijing even, India, Mesopotamia, probably not Mesopotamia. Oh, I don't know actually. I think I'm actually going to do, this is something I haven't really done before. I think I'm going to be giving it to a tie, so it's going to be 10A and 10B. And the two tied number 10 countries are going to be... 10A is actually going to be South Africa, and that should be telling you something. They have now overtaken the Congo and Morocco, which is quite impressive, but they really had a lot of potential that they have only been experiencing in the modern day. And 10B is going to be California. Now, despite losing that war, California did keep all of their economically viable lands, which I did mention. So, despite some military losses, which they are still recovering from, they are still definitely somewhat up there. So yeah, this is going to be our new top 10 power rankings, just like so. Now, really quickly, I'm going to also do regional power rankings. Like I said, I'm going to really quickly skim over this. I'm going to be doing it for each individual continent. So in North America, the individual ranks of the American continent is going to be the strongest country in North America is Ohio, the second strongest country is California, the third strongest country is Louisiana, the fourth strongest country is Mexico, and the fifth strongest country is Florida. In South America, the strongest country is Guyana. They have very, very, recently been able to retake over Colombia after World War III because these guys got blasted by nukes. Colombia was briefly stronger than them, but now they have regained some of their strength. The second strongest country is going to be Colombia, of course. The third strongest country is going to be Brazil. The fifth strongest country is actually going to be these guys. I wonder why. And the sixth strongest country, I might actually give the sixth strongest country to Rio. It would be very close between Rio and Uruguay, but just purely because of the economical valuable lands, they have a lot of population as well. This was also the core land of the Dutch colony, which has kind of moved into the modern day. But yeah, very close between these two guys down here. In Africa, the strongest country is obviously Egypt. The second strongest country, which is a newcomer, is going to be South Africa. The third strongest country is Morocco. The fourth strongest country is the Congo. And the fifth strongest country is Nigeria. In Europe, the strongest country is the Dutch. Then Galicia, followed very closely behind by Polynesia. The fourth strongest country is going to be Sweden. And the fifth strongest country is going to be England. In Asia, the strongest Asian country is, of course, China. I'm also going to count Indonesia as part of Asia because doing Oceania would be boring. But the second strongest country in Asia is Indonesia. The third is Tokyo. The fourth is Korea. And the fifth is actually a tie between Sichuan and Beijing. So yeah, those are our regional power rankings. And finally, we can now get onto our final event of the video. And it's actually going to be a pretty important one. And it's going to be all to do with the Chinese Economical Alliance. Also, by. But yeah, these guys are going to be expanding, and it's going to be causing a little bit of an issue. And why is that, you may be asking? Well, a very controversial country is going to be joining in on this alliance, and that country is actually going to be India. And this is very surprising for a multitude of reasons. First of all, India joining China's alliance is very strange. These guys did not have very good relations throughout recent history, but them joining in is quite interesting. Of course, these guys are a new government, so it's not like the old tensions that used to exist, but still, it's kind of a more recent, interesting dynamic. And second of all, and this is the reason I'm even discussing it in this much detail in the first place, Egypt is very pissed off about this. They are not very happy about this for two reasons. Number one, this is China really putting their influence out there. They really don't like how it's looking like China might even have more influence than them, which isn't exactly true. But India is one of the strongest economies in Asia. They are the third strongest economy in Asia and probably a top 10 economy in the world. Despite World War III, all of these major cities, just take a look. Look how many major cities there are. There's a lot of major cities. And yeah, so Egypt is going to be like, we can't stop you, but like that's, we don't like that. No. Tariffs, anyone? And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a diplomatic, interesting situation. A few tensions are going to be raised, but not many, because, China's just going to be like, yo, why do you care who we add to our economical alliance? Like, you trying to join it? It's just like, no, we're just like, we don't really like how you're kind of going out and expanding all over the place, and China's be like, okay, but why should we care what you think about it? Tensions. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. There was quite a lot of stuff in this episode, and there will be over the next coming, as we are now entering into this new era, which I will not be saying the name of it yet. I will be saying the name of this era in the next few episodes, and there is a reason for that, because it will be very leaking of what will be happening in this era. But yeah, I really hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope you guys are excited for said era, and I will see you guys in the next episode.